And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show, and it really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show today. All right, so second segment, of course, is going to be talking about Juan Soto's amazing season for the New York Yankees. Now, before we go into that, though, I'd like to say there were some significant news that broke while I was on break. There are actually two pieces that I did want to talk about. So first off, Jose Urquidia for the Houston Astros. He is apparently heading for a second Tommy John surgery, according to Alden Gomez of ESPN. It's not finalized, but it's looking likely, so that's a big blow for the Astros. I think I'm going to talk about that more tomorrow. I think that's a good segment, so be on the lookout for that if you watch tomorrow's show every day, 3:30 here on this channel. After that as well, Pirates player Tucupita Maracano, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, a former top prospect for the Padres who was the main part of the Adam Frazier trade a few years ago, is facing a lifetime ban from MLB for betting on games. And apparently he bet on Pirates games. So that's a big no-no. And so it'll be interesting to see if he does end up getting that lifetime ban. There are also apparently 4 other players under investigation by MLB for betting on games. So we saw it with the NBA this year. We saw it first off. We saw it already with the MLB. We saw it with the NFL and NBA already with players getting banned for gambling on games. We saw it this year already with David Fletcher being under investigation, Ohtani's interpreter, and now we're going to see more players, I think, falling under that domino. So it's going to be a very interesting thing to see what players are under investigation and where this goes from here. So yeah, I'm not going to comment on that any further because we don't know more. But yeah, it's looking like Maracano will be banned from MLB for life if it does turn out to be true. But again, we don't know more, and we'll probably know more throughout the day. And if we do end up knowing more and it does prove to be a interesting topic, I'll be talking about it tomorrow on the show. So be prepared for that. So now going to our planned second segment. Sorry about that. There were some notable things that did happen over the break that I just did want to touch upon. So before we did that, but yeah, we're talking about the player everyone loves, Juan Soto. Now, Soto, of course, was involved in one of the biggest trades in MLB history this offseason. I'd say both times he got traded were huge trades in MLB history, going from the San Diego Padres to the New York Yankees in a blockbuster. Now, when Soto got to New York, I was very sad because if you don't know, if you might see the jerseys behind me, I'm a Mets fan, and I really wanted Juan Soto. Now, when I learned the asking price of Juan Soto, I was like, okay, I can't really be mad. The Mets don't have much pitching prospects. They're not going to be able to trade for him. But seeing him across town in a Yankees uniform, fitting so perfectly with this city, it really is just kind of a heartbreaker. Now, as a baseball fan, I will say it's awesome. Just as a pure baseball fan, it's awesome. Juan Soto fits the Yankees perfectly. I mean, the swagger he has, the confidence, the ability, it just fits those Yankee pinstripes perfectly. It fits the Bronx perfectly, and it's just a great fit of player and team. I think one of the best in a long time. I think it reminds me a lot of Reggie Jackson when he went to the Yankees, being one of the best players in baseball, and you knew it. Now, Jackson might have been a little more cocky than Soto, I think. I think Soto has more confidence than cockiness, but at the same time, I think when you're a player who is as good as Reggie Jackson or Juan Soto, you can be cocky. I don't really see any problem with that. You've earned the right. So going over Soto's stats so far for the Yankees this year, I mean, they're absolutely insane. So in over 278 plate appearances, Soto has 17 home runs, a WOBA of 439, which is absolutely insane. WAR already of almost 4. This is also a guy who doesn't play that much defense. Like, of course he plays left field for the Yankees, but he's really not that good over there. He's a pretty below average defender, I'd say. This is really all from hitting. So he's about to hit 4 WAR on the season, and it's barely June. And his weighted runs created plus is 191. Now, I know some people watching here might not know what weighted runs created plus is. If you don't, it is a stat that just talks about how good of a hitter you are. It takes into consideration a lot of factors, and it is my favorite hitting stat. And basically, the basis of it is 100 is league average. So if you have a weighted runs created plus of 100, you are a league average hitter. It is one of the first stats you see on Fangraphs. You pull a player card up, so if you want to see it, go ahead. So basically, what Fangraphs is saying is Juan Soto is 91% better than league average. That's insane. That's insane. 191 by June reminds me of Ohtani and Judge seasons the past 2 years. Absolutely incredible. I mean, his walk percentage is almost at the same as his K percentage, which is not a surprise for Soto, but still insane. I mean, his OPS is 1.031. His ISO is almost at 300, which is insane. I mean, this guy's just a beast, and we've known about it already. I mean, his barrel percentage is 20.4, which is 7% up from last year. So 20% of the time, he's barreling the ball up. His hard hit percentage is 60, man. I mean, just as a baseball fan, it's honestly incredible just to go through Soto's stats and just be floored about how good this guy is. I've heard stories about Ted Williams from my family members. I've read books about him. Everything I've seen is that he's just Ted Williams. He's Ted Williams in 2024. It's just incredible what Soto does, and he's just an incredible talent. Anyone trying to discount his talent because he doesn't run the bases well or doesn't play defense don't understand what they're watching. They do not understand what they're watching. This is a generational type hitter, one of the greatest hitters you'll ever see, and an absolutely insane player and an incredible talent that we have to take. We have to make sure we're appreciating while he's here, what I should say. Now, what I want to say is overall just how much Soto does fit with the Yankees, as I said. I'm going to talk about it a little more in the segment after this, but just seeing him in those pincher, it just feels right. Seeing him with those fans, with that historic organization, it just feels right. So the impact Soto has had on the Yankees is, of course, I mean, when you have numbers like this, you're going to have an insane impact. There's really no doubt about that when you have the hitting numbers he has. But really another thing is just solidifying this lineup. Whether it was Soto or a bat who's still good but not as good as Soto, that's what the Yankees needed to do this offseason. You had Billy McKinney starting significant games for you last year. He was also good. Like, he wasn't bad. He was fine. But when you're the New York Yankees, who has Aaron Judge in his prime on your team, Garrett Cole in his prime on your team, Anthony Volpe, you can't just run these guys out and say, oh, that's it. No, you have to go for the big swing and you have to fix this. And that's exactly what the Yankees did this offseason. And oh my goodness, Soto has been incredible. I mean, just absolutely insane. I picked him for MVP in the preseason. It's on the show. It's on the channel. You look up my my preseason predictions. I had him as my MVP pick, so feeling pretty good about that right now. But I did not expect him to be this good. I mean, these stats in June are absolutely incredible. It's shaking up to be one of the best offensive seasons we've ever seen. And man, has being a Yankee really fit him. And now I want to go into another part of this segment about Soto and the Yankees, and that is the re-signing part. Now, we all know that the elephant in the room with Soto and the Yankees is, how long is he going to be there? He's a free agent after this year, and he's going to get a lot of money. Now, people think he's going to get $500 million. Personally, I think he's going to get $600 million. I think that he is indeed going to get $600 million. I thought he would probably get a few million more than whatever Ohtani got before that. Before Ohtani was a free agent, of course, but Soto's not getting $700 million. He doesn't pitch. So if I had to guess right now, I would think that Soto probably gets 600 over 15, which sounds insane, but when you realize Soto's going to be 26 when he gets free agency, and 15 years would only take him to his age 41 season, which isn't even that crazy. I think it is fair getting $40 million a year. You could even argue he deserves more than that with how much he hits. And is he going to regress towards the ends of that? Sure. But what player isn't going to regress to the ends of a 15-year contract? And I'm sure he'll be DH by year 1 or 2 of that contract. So he'll just be hitting. And I see him aging pretty well, honestly, with his swing. Again, he never really ran the bases well or fielded well anyways. So we'd have to see about that. But, yeah, I mean, will the Yankees be able to re-sign him is a big question, and it's something really to think about if you are a Yankees fan. I know a lot of them won't want to think about it with how good he's done this season, but you got to eventually. Now, going into the season, I thought there was absolutely no way they would be re-signing him. I just thought there was no way. I mean, you look at the contracts on this team, and it's still a valid point here. You have, of course, had Garrett Cole. You have Carlos Rodon. You have Marcus Stroman. 3 big contracts already for your starting pitchers. You have a looming extension for Anthony Volpe whenever that has to come. You have, of course, Aaron Judge. You have Giancarlo Stanton, which is an albatross. Those are a good amount of big contracts. I mean, Rodon, Cole, Stanton, Judge, those are 4 significant contracts in the books. Significant. that are long-term and are going to be affecting your team for a long time. And adding in a Soto contract that is going to be historic and groundbreaking for the amount of years and money it's going to be probably, I just didn't know if they had the money to get to be able to afford all that. Yes, the New York Yankees, I understand that. But every team has a limit. I mean, even Steve Cohen has a limit. We've seen it over the past few years now. So I just didn't know if they would be able to. And I still don't know if they'll be able to. But at the same time, I think they're going to have to be. And I think he is going to end up staying in the Bronx. Simply because of how well he fits the Yankees. The swagger he brings to that team. How well he fits those pinstripes and the Bronx with his personality, the cockiness, the confidence, how well he plays the game, how much he interacts with the fans. I think the Yankees cannot afford to let a guy, not only this talent go, but someone who appreciates playing as a Yankee so much, and as a guy who loves playing as a Yankee so much. You could tell he loves being a Yankee. He said he has family in New York, he doesn't want to leave, and I believe him. I think that, sorry about that. I just think this is such a good fit of player and team, that one of the best we've ever seen, that you can just not afford to let him go. Do whatever you can financially to keep him. If you got to attach a top prospect to your Art of Stanton's contract, you do that. But at the same, I just don't. And if you got to bite the bullet on a few seasons of really being in the red for the salary cap, quote unquote salary cap in baseball, or for the Cohen tax, really, you got to do that. I just think you cannot let a player of this talent go, who again not only is this talented, but also loves being a Yankee so much and represents your organization so well. Really is great off the field as well. You hear nothing but great things about him as a teammate as well. I just think this is a guy that represents this organization to the fullest, and I think they need to re-sign him. Now, is it going to be easy to re-sign him? No, but I think he does want to come back to the Yankees no matter what people say. I mean, there's going to be a lot of teams that want him. Mainly, I think you're looking at two teams right now. I think you're looking at the Cubs, and I think you're looking at, of course, the Mets. I think both those teams have money to spend this offseason, or, of course, big market teams, and have a clear need for a superstar bat in their lineup. I think both these teams could provide trouble to the Yankees, and I think both teams would offer more, but I think in the end, he's sort of going to choose the money or staying a Yankee and still getting a ton of money. I think he's going to end up staying a Yankee. I just think it makes too much sense. I think he knows the value of being in the Bronx and being on a historic team, what that means for his legacy, what that means for him off the field as well. I do think he's going to end up staying, but it is going to be fascinating this entire offseason to see what does happen. Again, if I had to guess, I would think it ends up being a bidding war between the Mets, Yankees, and Cubs. Maybe one other surprise team jumps in there. Again, usually we would say the Dodgers, but I don't think that the Dodgers have enough money after signing Ohtani. I would also say the Giants probably, but I just don't think Soto's swing, being a lefty, would work with McCovey Cove and the Giants Stadium. But also, I also know there's a perception of San Francisco around the league with some players that it's not the best place to go to. I've been to San Francisco. I like the city, but people can think what they want really. So, yeah, overall, it is going to be very interesting to see this offseason. I don't think it's too early to start talking about it. I think it's the biggest storyline of this year, and it is going to be one of the biggest storylines ever this offseason. And it is going to be fascinating to watch, and I'm very excited to watch it. So. All right, so that was the end of our second segment here, talking about Juan Soto and his amazing season for the Yankees so far. Moving into our third segment, which is going to be talking about Spencer Torkelson and him being sent down by the Detroit Tigers, and my overall thoughts on it and the impact on the team. And so, yeah, we'll talk about that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay